All right, everybody. So we are back to talking about the global apocalypse that is slowly creeping its way into a stranglehold around the entire planet. And it seems to be having its biggest impacts in America, ironically. Obviously, there's many other countries where there have been massive droughts and famines due to climate change, escalating climate change over time, in a bad way, you know, like arid environments causing famines, lack of rain where there should be rain, and lots of rain where there shouldn't be, causing landslides and massive amounts of damage. I know that in the desert around Palm Springs and all throughout that area, there have been amounts of rain that are very unusual when it does rain, and it causes massive mudslides. This is like a separate thing. I haven't even talked about this before, but have you seen? This is in California, where it's usually just dry desert. You'll be able to you'll be able to tell from this photo, and it started raining like crazy when it does rain. It doesn't rain often, but when it does, it pours like crazy. And now when it does, up on these like mountain and hill roads up in the high desert where it just never rained like this, the infrastructure is getting destroyed. And this is what you expect when you hear about a mudslide. But I've got a photo for you that is going to blow your fucking mind when you see it, if I can find the right one. Because it's not what you imagine when you think of like a desert mudslide destroying a road, you know? Google and YouTube are owned by the same company. It's not going to come up. Anyway, you guys get the idea of what I'm talking about here. Imagine a big flat area in the middle of the desert where the sand underneath the paved road has gotten washed away by running water, and now the like road itself has broken apart and is now just washed along the desert. So you just arrive at this broken bit of road, and you look off into the distance and realize the road that's supposed to be in front of you is now smeared across the landscape in one direction because it got carried off by the water, because all the sand under it went away and got washed off by all the running water and the mudslide. And so these mudslides are a big deal, okay? And that's just a thing in Southern California. You've also got the wildfires, the deep freezes. Climate change is hitting hard. It's no longer a thing of the future. It is here. And I've emphasized that, particularly during the lead up and the aftermath to Hurricane Helene. And now we are in the aftermath of Hurricane Milton, which slammed into Florida last night and is one of the worst storms in the time where Florida has had people in it ever. And this is following a massive storm that just happened a couple weeks ago. So the warnings of climate scientists for years being that storms are going to get worse, weather events are going to get downright apocalyptic, places are going to be underwater to a serious degree, these are not fantasies anymore. These are not like future events that could happen but probably won't. It's the reality. The present for a lot of people is that rising water that's been warned about, seeing it happen to them and realizing it's now. It happens now. It's not even like a thing to be warned about and to be scared of. It happens now. And so this story has been something I've been paying attention to a lot. I am also from Florida, so growing up around hurricanes, it's good to have that sort of Florida perspective that I have. You know, I know what a bad hurricane looks like, and I've seen as they get worse. They were not even this bad when I was a kid. Even the worst ones didn't usually get this bad. This is like Katrina bad. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at this news report. Going over the aftermath of the hurricane hitting, I expect there to be more damage than Helene caused due to all of the debris sitting out in front of people's houses and stuff. I expect the wind picked up a lot of garbage and sent it flying. So I'm scared to find out the death toll and the injury toll from this hurricane. I feel like it's got to be one of the worst.
We do have breaking news. Millions without power this morning after Hurricane Milton slammed through the state of Florida.
It made landfall as a Category 3 storm south of Tampa. Eyewitness News reporter Mark Robles is live in studio with a look at the devastation.
Yeah, Irene, John, we knew this was going to be a bad one. It took less than 8 hours to cross the Florida peninsula. The storm now heading out into the Atlantic Ocean as a Category 1 hurricane. Now, deaths have been confirmed specifically in St. Lucie County. That is on on Florida's Atlantic coast. We just got some new video in.
Deaths confirmed on the opposite side of the state where it made landfall. That implies to me that we don't have communication and organization up on the West Coast where it hit enough that we have an accurate understanding of the damage. But on the East Coast of the state, it got hit soft enough that they're able to tell us there are confirmed deaths. When the hurricane passed through the east coast of the state as a Cat 1, there were deaths. There's 10 deaths confirmed so far. That's a deadly that is a deadly hurricane already, and we're in the recovery hours where things are just now settling down and people are figuring things out. Apparently there's been at least 10 deaths according to others in chat, Lefty Jenna.
This shows right here search and rescue crews
I hope
working
Wingo's okay.
right now to rescue
Wingo's a
residents
Floridian.
from their apartments in
Pretty sure they don't
Clearwater,
have power
Florida. That is
right
near
now.
Tampa. It is unclear how many people need to be rescued, but that operation underway this morning from that second floor of the apartment complex.
Jesus Christ, dude.
When Milton made landfall,
Who remembers how often conservatives would do their little snide voice about how, yeah, in like 50 years or 80 years or 100 years or whatever, we're going to all be underwater. When the water level rises 2 feet or whatever, we're going to be 2 feet underwater. That's not what that means. If the average water height goes up 2 feet, that means at high tide, it's going up beyond any infrastructure we already have for it every day at high tide. That's what's happening in Venice right now. It means that when hurricanes come with massive storm surge, do you know what that is right there, chat? Do you know what that is? Right there, behind that boat? Do you know what that is sticking out of the water? Because I do. That's the top of a truck. That's not the top of a car. That's the top of a truck. That is just the top of a truck sticking out of the water. That is how deep it is. You can see a couple more here where it's just the tops of cars, and this one's fully submerged. You can just barely see under the water that there's like a smaller car there. That's a truck to be able to stick up that high, and this one's like a minivan or something, and it's just barely sticking up. That gives you an idea of how deep this water is. Look at this is the second story. These are people out on their balconies. This is sliding glass windows that are halfway consumed in water. That's like 4 feet of water minimum, maybe more. It might be 5 feet deep. This is how they were transporting people out when the hurricane hit my neighborhood, where FEMA and other first responders, police and stuff were in motorboats going up and down the street, picking people up and taking them away if they needed or wanted to get away. It's a terrifying situation. I think this is sunrise, by the way, because the hurricane hit in the night.
it was a Category 3 storm with 120-mile-per-hour winds. Part of the roof of Tropicana Field, home of the Tampa Bay Rays, it actually
got ripped off
in this storm.
And they're keeping.
And take a look here in St. Peter.
So what's so sad about this place getting fucked up is that when we get the downward view of it, it's full of thousands, it looks like, of cots for first responders, because this is one of the places where first responders for Hurricane Helene were sleeping, and they had to evacuate the first responders for hurricane response. And now the place where they were sleeping has been torn up, and now they're going to have to come back to resume hurricane recovery for a new hurricane. That makes me feel upset. Well, this is climate change, guys. It's not going to get better. This is the best it's ever going to be again until we go carbon negative. It's only going to get worse. This is the best it'll ever be again until we reach full global carbon negative footprint.
Petersburg, a construction crane came crashing down after
Look at that.
Authorities, they had warned that there wasn't enough time to secure
insane.
it. Even before the storm made landfall, an outbreak of tornadoes cut across the state. Officials reported the most
climate change
warnings
was
in
never
a
an
single day on
exaggeration.
record, nearly 120.
Never let
19
conservatives
were confirmed,
gaslight you into
leaving
thinking
homes
it's an
destroyed,
exaggeration.
Numerous areas reporting damages.
Florida gets tornadoes. People don't know that, but Florida gets hella tornadoes. Like, there's an area in Florida called Tornado Alley, like its own little tornado alley Florida has, where a lot of tornadoes form because it's flat and it's a lot of farmland. It's where a lot of cattle farmers are in like the sort of like south of the Panhandle area of Florida. There's a lot of tornadoes. Lakeland, for example, a place where I've lived, regular tornado alerts when there were big storms or hurricanes that hit. We were inland, and that was the big worry, were the tornadoes that hurricanes brought. And so there's a whole other level of insane destruction that the hurricanes bring with them on a smaller but still insane scale. When climate scientists have talked about like in our lifetime seeing climate change reach apocalyptic levels, they weren't exaggerating. I really do feel like Republicans have done a surprisingly good job of gaslighting even progressives into thinking climate change is an overblown issue. And a lot of even progressives don't engage a lot with content about climate change or trying to educate about climate change. I've seen the views on my channel, on other content creators' channels. Lefties don't like learning about climate change or hearing about it. And I feel like part of that is the right gaslighting even the left into thinking the climate activists are being a little they're exaggerating the severity a bit, right? It's not that big a deal. It's not that imminent, I mean, it's snowing after all. People fall for that talking point, even on the left, it seems, and it's easy to put it out of sight and out of mind. Not anymore, motherfuckers. Not anymore. It is very much not out of sight and far from out of mind now, and it is going to continue to get worse across the country and across the world until we do something about it.
Destroyed, numerous areas reporting damage as well. Even a 10,000 square foot sheriff's facility in St. Lucie County was destroyed. Listen here to one man and how his family survived.
We all started going for the hallway. Didn't even
God,
make it
the
there
roof got ripped off.
And I heard a piece of glass crack and sucked the whole roof off, and I felt the thing suck me up, and I grabbed my kid and my wife and hunkered down.
Our deputies
Tornado
are out
came
here. The
through.
fire district is out here. We're going through the rubble. We're trying to provide recover anybody that we can, provide whatever help that we can.
The predicted storm surge up to 13 feet, flooding densely populated areas along the coast, including Fort Myers.
13
On top of
feet
all of
of
that,
storm surge.
It's left more
Good
than
God.
3 million homes and businesses without power.
So this is why it's such a dangerous thing for like a foot or two of average sea level rise. Because nowadays, with climate change, it's not just that the average sea level goes up. It means you can expect storm surges of 13 feet. And so you're taking an average of 2 feet increase of average water level. You're adding normal high tides to that. And then on top of that, hurricane storm surge. And you could see actually flooded cities, like full on water above houses, roofs on the coast in Florida. That is a very real possibility. Like this year, if not next year's hurricane season, we're in the La Nina, where hurricanes form way more commonly and way more aggressively. So the next few years of hurricane seasons are going to be fucking rough, dude, and they're only going to get worse year by year. For the longest time, Sioux Falls has been repelling tornadoes left and right because of the valley. I sometimes wonder if that will no longer be the case due to climate change. We'll see. We'll see. It could be that that area stops having tornadoes and they start showing up somewhere else where there's not generally tornadoes. They could start showing up more like along the East Coast in areas where they previously didn't exist. We could see they could get so bad, we could see the unforeseen advent of mountain tornadoes, where it's just like, no, mountains don't stop tornadoes anymore. You could just be like in the Rocky Mountains and see a massive tornado crest over a distant mountain, and you need to hunker down fast because it's coming for you. That is a terrifying idea, and I think completely possible if climate change continues to get worse.
The governor says 9,000 National Guardsmen have been mobilized to respond to the storm, along with 1,400 search and rescue first responders. All of that
happened in
underway this
1987.
morning.
Jesus.
Milton is the third hurricane to make landfall in Florida this year, and that does tie a record. In more than 150 years, it's only happened 5 other times. John, we'll send it back to you.
Yeah, and this one was a direct hit. Okay.
Apparently, the auspicious Twitter account CatTurd has noted that it is suspicious that the hurricane winds and their speeds continue to change. High-level thought coming from right-wing Twitter posters these days.
Okay, Mark, thanks.
Ain't
70
it
more
fishy how the
California
wind
firefighters are being
is
sent to
changing
Florida to help with
speeds?
Hurricane Milton response efforts. The group includes 33 people from the Orange County Fire Authority and Anaheim and Orange Fire Departments. This is in
Good
addition
God,
to
look
the
at that.
LAFD and LA County firefighters that were sent out earlier this week. In all, California has now deployed 354 personnel to support hurricane response efforts.
As Hurricane Milton
I love that nonstop shit-talking from Florida politicians about California and progressive states. Meanwhile, they're providing hundreds of thousands of first aid workers to help the people of their state recover. You could not possibly find a better example of like the moral difference between Republicans and Democrats and how they run something. Has like DeSantis ever sent aid workers anywhere else, I wonder? Have any Republican states done that? I'd be surprised if any of these like hard red culture warrior governor having states have done anything close to that. Yeah, like California and other blue states will send aid to red states, even ones whose governors have like said that they deserve to die, you know, like that their governors deserve to die, and the Republicans would never do the same. The constant California slander got pretty old at this point. That's true as well when you consider California as like one of the strongest economies in the country and is one of like the biggest like benefiters to the U.S. like GDP there is. California's economy is bigger than that of France's, I believe. So yeah, it's like the California hate is really overplayed. LA kind of sucks as a city, but besides that, it's a pretty solid state.
Tears across Florida, the federal government is poised to respond.
We are prepared for this. We will certainly have challenges along the way as we move people around, but this is what we're good at. This is what we plan for.
FEMA says thousands of personnel are on the ground and that the agency has more than $11 billion in its disaster relief funds. Following the federal emergency declaration, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis activated 5,000 National Guard troops. Search and rescue teams are already rescuing people by air, ground, and by water. Meantime, more people are now pushing back on former President Trump's claims that the federal government is withholding disaster aid to Republican states.
Yep, the Republicans have been attacking FEMA.
The people that got impacted. It's about people wanting to make themselves seem important, say stuff that's just outlandish, trying to get clicks and attention that has nothing to do with getting information to the public.
People living in the storm zone got a $750 payment to get immediate shelter or food. Larger grants will be distributed in the coming months.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great AB.
It is a catastrophic situation in Florida right now. I worry for fans, friends, family that live in Florida. Obviously, I grew up in Florida, so I've got a lot of friends and family in Florida, and I have a fair few fans in Florida. Noticeably, a couple of them are missing today in chat, and that's a little worrying to me. So if they're okay, and they watch this stream, then I hope they know that I'm thinking about them and I'm worrying about them. Even if they're okay, I'm still worrying about them. But I can say, in a positive bit of news coming out of all of this, one of the people who we have absolutely been rooting for to ride out and survive this hurricane. Good job, YouTube. Me putting the video into full screen when it's fully paused absolutely means I want to play without any permission or enough response time to pause it before it starts playing with a few words. Thankfully, the guy who we have been rooting for, Lieutenant Dan, the one-legged homeless man who is living and riding out the hurricanes in his boat, he has survived. He is doing it. He is okay. He has ridden it out, and he is all right. Let's go ahead and get our update on Lieutenant Dan.
And all of America was rooting for during the hurricane. He's known as Lieutenant Dan, yes, after the character in Forrest Gump. He lives on a boat in Tampa, and video of him peeking out from his vessel went viral. Since he wasn't evacuating, many assumed he was a goner, but we're happy to report Lieutenant Dan survived the storm.
He made it. The stubborn one-legged sailor known as Lieutenant Dan survived Hurricane Milton on his 20-foot sailboat.
What did it feel like?
It was a lot of bumping around, a lot of bouncing around.
Lieutenant Dan became a viral sensation this week when he refused to leave his boat in Tampa Bay and take shelter.
A guy who's gone viral for refusing evacuation orders.
He's refusing to go to a shelter.
As Milton bore down on Tampa, concern for Dan grew.
The reason why he's gone so viral to a degree, especially among Floridians, is he kind of represents the Floridian spirit to, like, no matter how many evacuation orders come out, to just say, no, I can totally handle it. And that's kind of how it goes for every Floridian. Like, you always, when you grow up in Florida, you know a lot of guys who just, like, do crazy shit, and you're like, hey, you really shouldn't do that. One of these days, man, it's going to end badly. And it just never ends badly for them until it does. So that's why I worry. He kind of represents that side of Florida, you know, the full, like, foolhardy being convinced that you are fine and can survive anything until you can't. Listen, you've seen the Florida Man stories. I don't need to elaborate. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Would his little boat withstand Milton's wrath?
Lieutenant Dan!
Would he ride out the storm like the inspiration for his nickname, Lieutenant Dan, the legless war hero from the movie Forrest Gump? We caught up with him as he was checking his vessel for damage.
How's the boat today? Did it take
shot
any
to
beating?
use for the
It took a
character.
little bit of a beating. It's got some cosmetic damage, but that's about it.
Why did you decide to stay on your boat?
Because I live here and it's all I have.
Lieutenant Dan's real name is Joseph Malinowski, and he has a checkered past. Numerous run-ins with the law and battles with addiction. But as locals gathered by his boat today to check in on him, he says
homeless
his
people in
newfound
America.
fame will offer him a fresh start.
How was it?
It's fine.
What are your plans next, Lieutenant Dan?
I want to get some sleep. I didn't sleep at all last night.
That's so me, dude. That's so me. What are your plans? I'm gonna get some sleep. That's honestly the answer to anyone's question about what my plans are at any given time. What are your plans for today, Alex? Well, I'm gonna do everything I need to do. I'm gonna stream. I'm gonna, do my household chores, and then I'm gonna get some sleep. That's kind of like the thing at the end of the tunnel right now. I'm gonna get some sleep. It's gonna feel nice. My eyes are gonna burn much less when I close them. Good God. Watch the Republicans still hate homeless people after watching that? Oh, of course they still hate homeless people. Who do you think is behind the criminalization of giving homeless people money in red states right now? And who do you think is behind the installation of anti-homeless architecture? That's the Republicans, guys. That's almost through and through the Republicans. Yeah, I got a very important appointment at the Sleepy Time Junction. I got to make my appointment. Can't be late. Can't be late. Anyway, if you enjoyed that segment, you found it entertaining, probably not humorous, that's for sure, but perhaps even educational, consider leaving a like. Whether you're watching live or after the fact, every single individual thumbs up on my videos, streams, and everything I upload in the channel helps a lot. It literally in live, real time, forces YouTube to push that video and others out to new people on the channel and helps a ton. You can also comment down below to help the channel in the same way and subscribe and ring the bell icon so YouTube actually tells you when I upload new videos on my channel, because believe me, I can tell you from experience, they won't do that unless you do. And finally, if you want to see me on other platforms, consider following my social medias, linked down below in the description, including joining my fan Discord if you haven't already. It's totally free, it's the main hub of my community, and I host game events, call-in streams, and watch parties there. By the way, hosting a watch party there tomorrow night. We're watching the first 3 episodes of Season 3 of From, so I hope to see a lot of you guys there. And of course, if you so feel like it and you can afford it, you can help support me financially by donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, StreamElements, Patreon, or buying merch at the Streamlabs link down below. Though regardless of how you support me, I want you to know, even if you're a lurker watching and you haven't said anything or even liked the stream, I really do appreciate it, and I hope to see you again, and I hope you have a good one.